is written there.
Welcome out to church on this Wednesday night. It's good to be saved, isn't it? Good to be in the Lord's house. Let's all stand up, take your hymn book, turn to page number 345. Page 345. Where could I go but to the Lord? Page 345. Let's sing it now. On the first verse. Living below in this old sinful world, a comfort can afford, striving along to face temptation's foe. Where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to help me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord? On the second, neighbors are kind, I love them everyone. We get along in sweet accord. But when I fall, needs manna from above, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? to save me in the end. Oh, where could I go but to the Lord? On the last verse. Life here is grand, with friends I love so dear. Comfort I get from God's own word. Yet when I face the chilling hand of death, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to help me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord?
It's good to see everybody out this evening. Appreciate you being here. Before we go over some announcements real quick, I would ask you to remember my dad in your prayers if you don't mind. Thought he had a kidney stone on, was that Monday or Tuesday? I can't remember what day, but they thought he had a kidney stone, so they sent him for a CT scan to get scanned, and come to find out it wasn't a kidney stone. He's got diverticulitis, and he has been given all kinds of fun antibiotics, and all I know is his stomach pain is better, but he's really dizzy at times now. And this morning they thought he was having a reaction to an antibiotic, but now he's saying he's okay. The doctor wanted him to go to the ER. I think, if truth be told, he knows they'll poke him with a needle if he goes to the ER, so he's going to avoid that at all costs. So if y'all could pray for him, if you don't mind, that isn't a reaction and he'd get better. And I know he is more than stir crazy now. He was aggravated because he tried to look down at his computer to try to work yesterday, and he said, I get dizzy. It's like I'm in a car. I'm like, well, then don't work. That's very simple, solution to it. But he doesn't listen, obviously, as you can tell. So y'all remember him in prayer if you don't mind tonight, especially this reason him and my mom are not here. She's at home tending to him. Let's go over some announcements. We'll move forward with the service from there. Don't forget Sunday, we'll have a guest speaker, Brother Ed Strickland, with us. He'll be presenting his work during Sunday school, so men and women will be together up here in the sanctuary, and then he'll be preaching during our morning service, so we're looking forward to having Brother Ed with us this coming Sunday. Emerald Crossing VBS, July 13th through the 17th, Monday through Friday, starting at 6:30 each night. Registration's open now at hogmountainbc.org/upcoming-events. So head over to the website and get registered for VBS there. Looking forward to a good time here in a few weeks. Happy birthday to Kyle Shields tomorrow, Sarah Hayes on July the 3rd, C.W. Tanner on July the 6th, Olivia Forster July the 16th, and Emily Rich on July the 19th. And happy anniversary to Bubby and Katie Brewster on July the 8th. Are y'all going to hold hands on the 8th? No, that's probably won't see each other. Got it. Oh, goodness. Well, happy anniversary to them. Happy birthday to those others. Let's have a word of prayer. We'll move forward in the service from there. Brother Danny, how about leading us, if you don't mind?
All right, you can be seated if you'll sing nice and loud. Page 333, 333. I'll fly away. Let's sing it now, 333. On the first verse. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life have grown, I'll fly away. billows has foam, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more happy days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away when I die. Hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. All right, let's all stand again. Turn to page number 180. Page 180. Everybody will be happy over there. Page 180. Let's sing it now. On the first, there's a happy land of promise over in the great beyond, where the saved on earth shall soon the glory share, where the souls of men shall enter and live on forever. Everybody will be happy over there. Everybody will be happy, will be happy over there. We will shout and sing His praise. Everybody will be happy over there. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers will singing round the throne in that land where no one ever knows a care. And the Christians of all ages will join in the triumph song. Everybody will be happy over there. Everybody will be happy, will be happy over there. We will shout and sing His praise. Everybody will be happy over there. We will hear nobody praying and mourning in that land, for no burdens there will be for us to bear. All the people will be singing, glory, glory to the Lamb. Everybody will be happy over there. Everybody will be happy, will be happy over there. We will shout and sing His praise. Everybody will be happy over there. There we'll meet the one who saved us and who kept us by His grace, and who brought us to that land so bright and fair. We will praise His name forever as we look upon His face. Everybody will be happy over there. Everybody will be happy, will be happy over there. We will shout and sing His praise. Everybody will be happy over there. Amen. Let's have a moment of fellowship. Moment of fellowship.
right, this time we'll take up the mission offering. CJ, would you bless this offering for us?
Thank you, Lord, for this day. Please our best to serve us to your will and your way. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. You can be seated.
I've had my fill of this new generation who all say my faith needs transformation, but I'll just keep walking in the old paths that led me this far. The Bible is plain, it needs no revision. Don't need to recover from my decision. You can't change my mind, it's settled deep down in my heart. I'm staying in, I'll finish this race, not by my own strength, but by my Savior's mercy and grace. My course was set the night I got saved, and I'll not turn back, there's too much at stake. Things may look hopeless, but we're gonna win, so I'm staying in. I'm staying. Not much is said for being faithful. If you take a stand, you're being hateful. This old world despises the very life that we live. Too many rules, too much separation, but I'm free from sin with no condemnation. I'd rather have Jesus than anything that this world can give. I'm staying in.
Yes, I'm staying in.
I'll finish this race.
I'll finish this race,
Not by my own strength, but by my Savior's mercy and grace. My course was set the night I got saved, and I'll not turn back, there's too much at stake. Things may look hopeless, but we're gonna win, so I'm staying in.
I'm staying. Book of Esther, chapter number 2 this evening. I did want to make mention as well, continue praying for Olivia Forster. I need to double check the number I have for Darren. It's going straight to voicemail. I've tried the past 2 days. So if you could either text that to me or get Miss Dolores to make sure I have the right number, that'd be great. But y'all pray for her. She was having some kidney stone issues. It seemed like she was doing better Sunday when we went by to check on her, but y'all continue praying for her as well. In addition to that, Nanny's neighbor, Pat Parker, I know they called an ambulance on her yesterday. She wasn't doing very well at all. So y'all remember her in your prayers as well, if you don't mind. But we started looking verse by verse at the book of Esther, and one thing I wanted to try to just highlight to you again, and I know last week I dealt some with the geographical aspect of this and how big the Persian Empire was at this time and things like that. One of the things, thinking back on it, that I don't think I covered very well was the time frame in which the book of Esther is written. Now, a lot of times in our Bible, we look at things in the order that they arrive to us. So, we look at Genesis and we think, where is the oldest stuff in the Bible contained? Well, Genesis, that's where creation is. And then you go to Exodus, and it kind of is a progressive story. But what we need to understand is after we get really to Joshua, it becomes a mixture. It becomes certain things. So 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles are in some cases a repeat of each other. It's the same thing but from two different perspectives. One from a physical kingdom and one from a spiritual perspective. You get over into the minor prophets and the major prophets, and a lot of those are what we call contemporaries to each other. They lived at the exact same time, and sometimes it blows our mind that people lived at the exact same time, but they did, and they would have known each other and would have possibly heard of each other in some cases in this. But as we're looking at the book of Esther, I want to make sure that we understand timeline-wise where this falls. So we're here in the historical section of our Old Testament, if you will, but when we're at the book of Esther, I want you to understand you're sandwiched in between 4 different other Bible stories that we all know and have known since we were kids in a lot of cases. How many of y'all remember Daniel? Mr. Daniel in the lion's den. God came down and turned him into little kitty cats, or the angel did, turned him into kitty cats, and he slept on them that night instead of them eating him. So Daniel was approximately 100 years before Esther. So the end of Daniel's life and the beginning of the story of Esther is about 100 years difference in that. Now, from that span, from Daniel into Esther, something else happens, and this man by the name of Ezra goes, and in that time goes and begins the building of the temple back in Israel, and then there's a span in there that they wait, and then Nehemiah later on comes back to build the walls. Esther occurs in the gap between Ezra and Nehemiah. That is where Esther falls chronologically within our Bible. So when you're reading the book of Esther, even though Daniel is way far to our right, Daniel actually happened before Esther. Pop Bible quiz right here. Does anybody know what the first book of the Bible written was? The oldest written book of the Bible? CJ? Job. Job actually is dated, is believed that the story occurred sometime during the book of Genesis, but the account itself actually predates Moses. There's actually historical Jewish ties that put that text before Moses even was around. It would have been one of the first books of the Bible that was, or the first book of the Bible that we believe to be written. But we arrive here at Esther. And when we begin looking at the account of Esther, we saw last week that King Ahasuerus, he has ascended or is on the throne here of Persia, and his wife, Queen Vashti. Now, understand, and this is something that I didn't highlight last week as well, these kings, these pagan kings like this were not one man, one woman, and that was a marriage. Now, they may have had one wife, but they had multiple other women, concubines, things like that they would have had. Or I think C.W. said as a little kid, porcupines, or maybe it was Ben. I can't remember. They said that he had, Solomon had so many wives and this many porcupines. And that would have been a sticky situation to be in with the porcupines. But y'all will get that sometime later. Porcupines have little pricklies. Yeah, there you go. But it's Queen Vashti, so his primary wife, if you would, he has turned out because she refused to come and present herself in front of what we know is to be just a bunch of drunk men that were there. So we pick back up where we left off. Look with me in chapter number 2, and we'll try to cover the entire chapter 9 if we can make it through. We read this: After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Now, I find this very interesting. A lot of times these kings would never, ever go back and rethink on things that they had made a decree of before or had said something about it in time and place before. It's kind of one of those, we see this politically happen right now. I'm not trying to be political with this. I'm just simply very much stating the facts that Iran in this deal has apparently gotten billions of dollars back that was held up in all these different sanctions and stuff like that. And the money gets released and people start complaining that the money was released with no performance. And then the president comes out and says, well, it was put in an escrow account. Well, if you don't know what an escrow account is and you have a mortgage, it's the same thing. You put money into it, the bank writes your property tax and insurance out of it. That way there's always money to pay those. And then you've got that money that you're putting into it. You fund it, it's your money, but the bank controls it. An escrow account for them would be, we put the money in, but the U.S. gets to decide when that money is spent and how it is spent, not necessarily just how Iran wants it spent. And that's what was supposed to happen. Guess what somebody forgot at the Treasury Department? To put an escrow account on it. They sent the money directly to Iran. Guess what Oman did? They sent the money directly to Iran. So you know what we have right now? You have a president who's saying one thing, his administration's doing another thing. You know what it begins doing? It begins looking foolish on them. You know, it's kind of one of those things, if I tell you one thing and then I turn around and do another, it's going to look foolish. It's not going to make any sense. These kings were the same way, but they tried their best to ensure that they never went back upon their word. But his wrath was appeased, and then he begins thinking about her and thinking very fondly of her. Now, we know this is said out loud because it's recorded here in the book of Esther. So very obviously, someone has he has told other people that he's begun thinking about, you know, she really was very sweet. You know, she did all of this for me. And she handled this within the kingdom for me. And she took care of these things. And he begins having these thoughts about that. But notice in verse number 2 what happens. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may together all the fair virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of women, under the custody of Hege the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them, and let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. His servants trying to keep him from going back on his word, reinstalling Vashti to the queenship there. So he convinces him, he says, let's essentially have, for lack of a better term, a beauty contest here, and let's bring back and let's have a Miss Persia pageant, and the winner of the Miss Persia pageant gets to be your wife. Now, how many of y'all would like to be in contestant? Now, guys, I guess if there's enough money involved, you know, I think it was Danny that used to have a bumper sticker on one of his trucks that said, I'm ashamed of what I did for a Klondike bar. But and what a truth that is. You get a hold of a Klondike bar and it's something else. But I think there's some guys who would enter the beauty contest just for the sake of being able to be a winner if there was a money prize to the end of it. But, you know, these women who are going to come are going to get the chance to be the wife of the king. They're going to get a chance to be a queen. Now, there's no stipulations from what we can tell on who their family is, what their pedigree is, anything like that. All we know is that they're getting to come, and essentially it is the chance of a lifetime for them to come and get the chance to be the queen of Persia. What an amazing concept for some of these young ladies that are going to come and present themselves for this. Verse number 5, now in Shushan, the palace was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own. Now, let's do with Mordecai first. Mordecai, when they're carried away captive, Mordecai is one of the ones coming in. Now, he would have been very, very young in coming in like this with the time in which it is. And understand, this isn't everybody was taken captive all at the exact same time. You're not going to take millions of Jews from their homeland and stick them in Persia immediately. So Daniel likely came in the first batch, one of the first batches of it. It says that they went and sought out the young and the fair, the smart, cunning in all things, and they brought them into the palace. So he would have come first. We see that Mordecai likely would have come later in that. But what we do know is that Mordecai had taken his niece, his daughter, and for the reason her mom and dad had died. He took her in, he took care of her, he had her there, and he was caring for her just as his own. And she's described here as this. He says, notice this, and the maid was fair and beautiful. Now, obviously, from what we can tell, Esther is not an ugly woman. When you have the story of Rachel and Leah back earlier in the book of Genesis, and the two of them are brought up, and Leah is talked about. The only good thing the Bible can say about her is she was tender-eyed. Now, I don't know how ugly you have to be for somebody just to be able to say that you're tender-eyed, but obviously she had to be pretty ugly for that to be the only occasion. Now, this woman is being called beautiful. It's the polar opposite of what was said there. Verse number 8, so it came to pass when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, that many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also into the king's house to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were given to her, or to be given her, out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Now, we saw just a minute ago, Mordecai had a very special place in this kingdom. Mordecai actually worked in the palace. Now, you look at our government, we don't have a palace, but we do have a White House, and that would be a pretty cool thing to be able to say that your daily reporting place for work would be the White House. To me, that would be a really cool thing to say that, where do you commute to in the morning? Well, right now I commute to Gainesville. How cool would it be to say, well, I commute to the White House? What an interesting job that would end up being. Mordecai worked within the palace. Now, we don't know at this point in time, and it's believed that at this point in time he was likely a servant, but that's why he likely found out quickly about this contest going on, if you will, to allow these young women to come. So he brings Esther, and when Esther is brought, Hegai, the keeper of the women, he just absolutely falls in love with Esther as being the best that he has to offer unto the king. Now, you say, what is his benefit in doing this? The quicker he can find who the king is looking for, the better he's going to look to the king, and the higher in power he is going to rise. Understand, these Old Testament kings were not about a personnel file. They were not about wanting to know how long you had been there. They were about loyalty, and they were about what can you offer me. That's the two things they wanted absolutely above all else. Now, the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah sometimes are a little bit different. You look at David, and David brought people into his court that brought him no benefit whatsoever. Think about the story of Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth didn't offer anything to David. Mephibosheth was really just a reminder of who Jonathan was. And it was that reminder that David had of that. The king is not going to be promoting this guy just because he likes him. I guess if you want to say he's wanting to see performance out of him, and he sees that performance coming in Esther. But I want you to notice verse number 10. Esther had not showed her people, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. Now think about this here for just a minute. Why would she be ashamed of who she is? Now think about that let's back our way into this First of all, we need to know who she was before we can know why she would be ashamed of who she is. Or hide who she is. The word ashamed probably wasn't right there. But her uncle was Mordecai. Where did I say Mordecai was taken captive from? Israel. He was taken captive. He was a Jew. She is a Jew. Can I tell you there's one group of people on this earth who has been consistently persecuted throughout all ages, and that is that of the Jewish race. The Jewish race has been persecuted. You can go back and you can look back as far as you want to go. You can look forward from now, and you're going to see the persecution of the Jews end up continuing on, and people that hate them. You have countries in this world who have literally bound themselves to want to destroy Israel. You have others that just want them gone. You even have stereotype things here, even within the U.S., where people, sometimes I never understood what it meant when I was a kid, but we would go to a car dealership, and my dad would say, I will Jew them down. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. And it literally means because they are very frugal people, they will haggle their way down. Since then, I've started using the word haggle or negotiate or something like that. I don't want it to be a slight towards the Jewish people when that is said. It's said, too, that's part of where the term jewelry came from as well. Now, the Jewish people are not people that are valued by any stretch of the imagination by most of the world. And what we find here is that Mordecai has Esther hide who she is, because if it's known that she's a Jew, her chances are probably going to go to zero. She'll probably be kicked out of the court of the women because she is not a Persian by birth. She is not a Persian by means of her ethnicity and who she is part of, but they hid it. Verse number 11, and Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, Mordecai took very special interest in making sure that Esther was taken care of. Kind of makes me think he wouldn't just walk by and check on her, but if she needed something, things like that, obviously the court of the women likely would have provided her whatever it is that she needed. But Mordecai constantly showed his support to her by coming by, checking in on her, seeing how it was going. In verse number 12, notice how this process works. Now, when every maid's turn was come to go into King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months according to the manner of women, for so was the purification accomplished, to wit 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of women. So for 12 months they would prepare themselves to go and meet the king. Now, my wife takes a little while to get ready in the mornings. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes total, wouldn't you? From get up to ready, it's an hour and 15 minutes. It depends on the day. All I know is Saturday, we need to leave the house by right around 8 o'clock, and she said she had to be out of bed at 6:45. So that's where I got my hour and 15 minutes in there. And so that's where I get it from. All I can say is she gets that stunningly gorgeous with just an hour and 15 minutes a day. Yep, there was the eye roll. I was waiting on it. Can you imagine if she took a year to get ready? Sometimes it feels like it when I'm hungry and I'm waiting to go to breakfast, and Kurt's Cafeteria is 3 minutes from my house, and I'm waiting longer on my wife to get ready than it's going to take me to get to the restaurant we're trying to go eat breakfast at on Saturday morning. And I'm like, come on, it feels like a year. No, these women took literally an entire year to prepare themselves to present themselves before the king. Verse 13, then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. Now, let me explain what this means. A lot of these women, when they would go over, and think about this here for just a minute. When my wife gets ready in the morning, you know, she's doing her makeup, she's doing her hair, she's doing those things. But the very last thing she does right before she leaves is she goes and starts putting her jewelry on. And she's got like 3 bracelets that go on one side, a watch and another bracelet that goes on the other side, a ring for this hand, a ring for this hand, a necklace. She's got all these things that she puts on that are extra, and the necklace changes depending on what she's wearing. In addition to that, she color coordinates her shoes with the rest of her outfit. She has different pairs of tennis shoes so that the colors on her tennis shoes coordinate with the colors of her outfit. I have 2 pairs of tennis shoes. One that I work in and one that I wear. I have 2 pairs of dress shoes, brown and black. I have a pair of my little brown casual shoes that I have on right now. Beyond that, it is Crocs, flip-flops, and like house slippers. She coordinates all of that. what this is saying is that these women, when they were leaving the court of the women to go to the king, whatever they wanted to accessorize themselves with, to bling themselves, if you will, with, they had jewelry at their disposal, they had special outfits at their disposal. Whatever they wanted, they got to make their chances the best that it could possibly be. Verse 14, this is talking about the women that have been talked about so far. In the evening she went, on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, to the custody of Sheshgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that were called by name. Now, let me explain to you what is happening here. The king, I mentioned this before, had concubines. Concubines were for single encounters. Encounters just when the king wanted an encounter. But a wife is what he was after. There was a major difference in that. And can I tell you, there's a major difference in a relationship that you have with somebody that's for a lifetime, and the king is seeking after this. So these women would come in, they would stay the night there, and then he would send them out to the second house. Now, the second house was the concubine. Can I tell you, that meant that she was essentially rejected as a wife of the king. She was put away to the concubine, and if the king ever remembered who she was, he could call her back. Now, she was set for life. She had food. She had everything she needed in there. It was likely an enjoyable life to get to live in that house and be part of that house. But she was rejected. She wasn't part of what the king had wanted. Verse 15, now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, appointed, the keeper of the women appointed, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. Now I want you to notice again, read the middle part of this verse very carefully again. Who had taken for his daughter was come to go in unto the king. She required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. She didn't need the extra jewelry. She didn't need the fancy clothes. She didn't need any of that. She went in just as herself. She didn't doll herself up like in some crazy way. She didn't, do all these things. I remember when we got married, and I don't know how long they spent on Tara's hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff. All I know is I spent just as much time taking rubber bands out of her hair that night. Everywhere we turned, there was another little rubber band, another little rubber band, another little rubber band, another little rubber band, and just constantly getting those. I think at one point in time I finally grabbed a pocket knife and started cutting individual little ones off, if I remember correctly. I don't know if I did that or not. I'd probably been too scared, cut her hair by accident or something like that. She took all that time getting ready, and she looked absolutely beautiful. This woman just walked into the king as who she was. You know what I find amazing? She's just as beautiful to me on a Saturday when she's come downstairs with no hair done, no makeup done, no nothing like that. She's just as beautiful to me. This king looked at Esther and saw something in her, and the other people saw something in her that made her obtain favor in their sight. Now, there were two things it was. Now, number one, I want you to understand this. It's likely her humility. She didn't need the fancy things to be favored in the king's sight. Why? Number two, because she was a child of the king. Because she knew the God that was there and the God that loved her. And ultimately, she knew this, whether the king took her or not, she still had a God who loved her. What an amazing thing that is, to be able to know that. But I want you to notice what the result of this was. Look in verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Now I want you to think here for just a minute about this. This is a Hebrew woman whose parents had died when they were coming out of captivity. They very well could have died when Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem. We don't know completely what the story was. We do know at some point in time they have died. They could have died on the journey back over towards Babylon, and possibly even over towards the palace that was there at Shushan. Whatever happened, we do know that they had died. This woman had been something of what the world would look at and say there was likely no hope, and look what's happened to her now. she's the queen. Now she's in the palace, married to the most powerful man in all of the land. Verse 18, then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther did the commandment of Mordecai like as when she was brought up with him. Now, I want to point out two things in this real quick, and I want to get to the point of this entire passage that we've looked at real quick. Number one, I want you to notice verse number 19 at the end. Remember, I said Mordecai, we don't know his position, but he very likely wasn't high up in the palace. I want you to notice what happens in the end of verse number 19. Then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Now, if you study the cultures of these kingdoms and the such in the Old Testament, the people of prominence sat in the gates of cities, sat in the gates of palaces, and they were there as a judge as to whether or not, number one, you should come into the city, or number two, if what you're worthy of is to come into the palace. The men who were sat at the gates of the palace were the gatekeepers to the king. They were the ones deciding if this individual coming in was worthy of an audience with the king, was worthy to come in and speak to the king. That's a very big power. That's a very big power for someone to have. There's a lady that used to work with us, and the last job she held, and goodness gracious, she was quite the help to me. Her name was Tracy Denier. She passed away just a couple of years ago. Tracy was the receptionist at Martin Docks for a while, and then she had promoted up to office manager and bounced around to 5 or 6 other positions. And right before she left, she ended up just assisting me. She was outside my office door, and you could not get into my office without going through Tracy's office. You could not ring my desk without ringing Tracy's desk first. All of my calls, all of my visitors, everything went through her to make sure I had the time that I needed to get things done. And you know what trust it had to be to put into her? That she's the gatekeeper of what I do and do not need to know. Mentioned the White House a little bit ago, and this is a very famous video and picture of this. Has been circulated around back from 2001 when the planes hit the Twin Towers. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, George Bush was at an elementary school in Florida, and he was reading, doing a reading exercise with kids, and they were in the middle of doing that. Now, he knew that the first tower had been hit, but at that point in time, they thought it was just, it actually had happened to other buildings before, where a very small, like Cessna, had lost control, had flight control issues, and had flown into skyscrapers before. And they were thinking that's what this might be. Still a tragedy, still something he needed to deal with, but not a national emergency of the scale that it would later unfold to be. Second plane hits the second tower, and he is in a classroom facing children with a teacher to his left. And when you look at the video footage of that day, you hear the press start gaggling in the back or talking amongst one another. And then you see a man walk in from the left side, lean over, and whisper something in George Bush's ear and then walk away. Most people have no idea who that man is. That man, his name is Andy Card. Andy Card was the chief of staff for President George W. Bush. Andy Card was the one who had to make the decision, do I interrupt or do I tell him after? Every single national issue that comes up, the chief of staff of the president is the one who makes the decision. Does he need to know it now or does he not? He made the decision. He needs to know it now. He went over and he leaned down into George Bush's ear and said, a second plane has hit the second tower. America is under attack, and walked away. You see the expression change on George Bush's face. Can you imagine the gravity of having to be the one to do that? The gatekeeper that keeps things from or passes things to the most powerful man in the world. The Persian Empire was so great at the time, that's exactly what this man was. He was the most powerful man, very likely, in the world at this time. And Mordecai had become his gatekeeper. Verse number 20. Notice the second part of this. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. Now, she hadn't shown who she was, but how do you think Mordecai got his job? Seems to me like Esther might have had something to do with him getting the promotion in the palace. I find that very interesting. But she had still kept this completely secret and had not want anything to come there. Now, I'm going to deal with these last couple of verses, but I want to bring you the overarching thought that I think sometimes gets buried in this passage. Can I tell you this? When the Jews went to captivity, I'm sure they saw it as a defeat. It was a defeat for them. It was something that God used as a punishment to chastise them for the way that they had disobeyed His law. So when they left their land and had to go away, that was a punishment within itself. Can you imagine being Esther, though? Your mom and dad are dead. They're not around anymore. You're young. You're being raised by your uncle, but not being raised by your uncle in your hometown. Not being raised by your uncle in another place, but you're being raised in a foreign country, in a foreign land, who speaks a different language, who worships a different God, who eats different food. All these different things they did differently. And I wonder sometimes if Esther thought to herself, God, why? Why? Why would you let this happen to me? In addition to that, we know because she can be counted in this camp as a virgin getting to come to the king, she had not married. And likely she questioned God, why? Why is this? Why is this? But can you imagine now that her life has changed in the way that it is and she's the queen? Looking back on what her life was, it probably all made sense on how God laid the plan out. You know what the funny part of it is? We haven't even seen half what the plan is yet. We look at this and we think, man, she's the queen. This is great. She's the queen. She's the head honcho right below the king. That is awesome. That is an awesome thing that she achieved that she made it there. But can I tell you, when God seems to be pressing you, when God seems to have you in an uncomfortable situation or in circumstances that you don't like and you don't understand, can I tell you something above all else? Trust Him. Trust Him. When we don't trust Him, He can't do His work. Esther had to trust Him. We've got to trust God. And that word trusting is not keeping our hands on it. We've got to hand it all over to God and let Him have reign and let Him go and do what He needs to do. Now we see in these last couple of verses, Mordecai proves his loyalty here to the king. Verse 21, in those days while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof and Mordecai's name. So this issue comes up, and two men are thinking to do harm to the king. Mordecai gets it to Esther. Esther tells the king. What does the king do? Verse 23, and when inquisition was made of the matter, in other words, an investigation was done, it was found out, therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. The king actually recorded this in his record books of what Mordecai had done to spare him his life. Now, think about Mordecai for just a minute. What benefit, other than Esther being in his court, seems like it would do him some good if a bunch of the kings got hopped off and, lost their heads or lost their kingdom or whatever it may be, and there was an overthrow of the kingdom. It seems to me like it might actually help the situation. He doesn't care. Why? He understands, we have it in our New Testament written that we're to respect the authority that God has given us. Sometimes that's very hard. That's been very hard lately. We've got to respect that. We have to respect that authority. Mordecai does the same thing, and you know what it does for him? Later on, we're going to find out Mordecai's faithfulness to the little things will end up allowing him to unlock bigger things that are still to come. Above all else, remember this. No matter what season of life God has you in right now, He's got another season ahead. He's preparing for you, and He wants to see something great out of it. Hang around. It's just going to get better from here. Worse and then better. It's like every good story. It's got to have a down moment, and then we're going to see a hero at the end of the day, and that's what we're after. So Thank you so much for your attention tonight. We'll stand and be dismissed in a word of prayer. Don't forget about these requests that we made mention of earlier. Be praying for VBS. It's right around the corner, and we're trying to get with a few people here tonight and on into next week. Or later this week into a few things. And then in addition to that, continue the funerals on Saturdays, might jog my memory of it. Continue praying for Miss Connie Tucker's family. Her mom passed, and her funeral will be coming up here on Saturday. So y'all remember them in prayer if you don't mind. But appreciate your attention. Anybody have any requests they'd like to make or anything they have on their heart before we dismiss? All righty. If not, let's have a word of prayer. We'll be dismissed after that. Brother Jared, how about leading us in prayer if you don't mind?